love, and longing. At ease, Mironoir says as the guards salute her. The room she had appeared in was a guarded beacon room, one of several, each in strategic locations and all designed to allow the battle princesses to return at a moment's notice from anywhere on Cerbo. Anyone else caught in these rooms was arrested and interrogated. They were hard points in defense and very much a state resource. On average, about 6 apuk a year found themselves poking the beacons and trying to teleport in. Looking for a gap in the guard schedule or just seeing what would happen. They were generally released without even a fine, but a stern warning and the knowledge of the fact that you had a very uncomfortable stay in a prison and an interrogation to look forward to each time you tried was dissuasion enough. A fine on top of it would just be kicking someone while they were down. Excuse me, girls, but where is the Empress at the moment? Her office, I believe, but as you know, her ladyship can change her schedule on a whim. Thank you, Mironoir replies and she leaves the room. I beg your pardon, she says to the relieving guards on approach. Standard guard rotation meant that the girls who were leaving a shift had company for the last half hour of it. It meant the posts that would otherwise be starting to flag due to exhaustion or restlessness had a double posting during that time with fresh faces. It also nicely closed up any and all gaps in guard patrols. The guards to the office of the Empress open the doors in front of her, and the Empress looks up from where she's studying from a glowing screen off to the side. She deactivates it, smiles, and turns to her as she enters the room. My little battle princess, so good to see you. Although from your expression, my evening just got more interesting, hasn't it? The Empress asks with an amused smile. What fascinating opportunity has your husband stirred up this time? Well, what's happened is... Mironoir begins before Arishar, the woman that shared her first name with an aunt-grandmother and now a daughter of Mironoir, rushes in before pausing to reevaluate the situation. It must be interesting if... The Empress begins before pausing as the sound of multiple women rushing up can be heard. Open the doors, guards, women. This is going to be a very interesting meeting. The doors are opened in time, and before a minute has passed, there are 20 different battle princesses, each one known to be married to a sorcerer gathered in the room. Well then, now that we're all here, please tell me this is all one issue. The Dark Forest is making moves, Arichar states, and Mironoir nods. If I may, I was there as things were happening. Perhaps I could explain, she asks. By all means, my battle princess, explain tonight's entertainment to us. The Empress says, in an amused tone. Recently, a small gaggle of children approached the Dark Forest, and of their number 3 were young boys. They all but fled when the human sorcerers scared them by accident. How do you scare someone by accident? Arichar demands. They were in their uniforms and the children have issues with authority. So people in obviously military outfits frightened them. Mironoir defends her husband. The boys were able to make contact and be accepted by the Dark Forest as sorcerers in training. I see, and these young, soon-to-be sorcerers led to something odd happening with the Dark Forest. Like our little friend Cal's Tarn, the Empress asks. We followed up on it to make sure the children were all right. That they have made contact with the Dark Forest meant my husband could find them from anywhere. They led us to Alranath, the Duchy of House Quen to be more accurate. Very good, so who were they? The Barlise clan, former nobility in an unending blood feud with the equally disgraced nobles, the Harkle clan. My husband and I arrived just in time to see police reaction to a bomb threat, just in time for the dark forest tree that grew near their home to ruin their traditional intimidation tactic and incapacitate most of the force by accident, leaving it to myself and my husband to lead the charge. You and him against an entire home of disgraced nobles? Not exactly a fair fight now, is it? Arichar asks. and Mironnoir lets out a slight giggle. Few fights are fair, especially not the ones I find myself in. Mironnoir concedes. To summarize things, the Barlis and Harcool clans are very alike in that their former nobility used to form a large percentage of Alranath's officers and commanders in the military. Ah, now I recall them. They were involved in a bloody coup attempt several centuries ago. Each clan backed a different potential to the current Quen Duchi's throne when it was in the hands of the Dreton. They both killed off the other's candidate more or less at the same time, then they tried to place all the blame on the other, and it devolved into a fight that lost them their rank and standing. They're still fighting? The Empress asks. They are my Empress? The fighting has gotten even more insane? How so? Have they interbred somehow? The Empress asks, and Mironnoir merely nods. Really? Well, dear goodness. And with the older generations all but exterminated, it seems that the Barley and Harcool are two halves of one monumentally bloodthirsty family, Mironnoir states. I see. And where did the Dark Forest come in on all this? We were discussing things about the family and gaining the relevant information about everything, and the topic came upon the children. You see, during the raid on the Barlis home, the Harcool tried to attack, and then reinforcements from both sides arrived from other homes, leading to a small army from each side being arrested, but also leaving the children without guardians. And then the Dark Forest offered. Only after we heard that this sort of thing had happened before, that it was almost routine, and after the Barlis and Harcool were released from prison, they would take back their children from wherever they were placed, and everything would start all over. That's when the Dark Forest offered to take the children in and act as ward and guardian to them. Mironnoir explains, and the Empress starts to laugh. My Empress? Sign here, accept here, signature here, acknowledgement here, here and here, Finrey Gore says as Vernon goes through the paperwork. It was on a stack of 10 different data slates and dozens of pages long each. What really made this awkward, though, was that he had to more or less surrender control of his right arm to the Dark Forest for it to try and sign things. It wasn't used to moving as such, and it showed. Still, things were going at a slow and reliable pace. Things were going to be nice and official, and Finrey Gore was clearly watching the time to see when she could come off shift. So, I am legally forced to ask about the accommodations the children will have, Finrey Gore says. While the Dark Forest has churned out some impressive children, the law requires for anyone fostering a child to have a steady home, source of food for the children, a safe environment, educational plan, access to medical facilities, and more. They can be easily teleported all over the place, and I've spoken to the other sorcerers. They're building several new houses just for the children as we speak. And clothing, access to warm water and proper play areas? Finrey Gore asks. I can show you. We have methods and techniques, Vernon says, and she gives him a look. Look, you may be a sorcerer and some kind of alien super soldier, but there are rules. They exist for a reason, and they especially exist for the protection of children. Finrey Gore begins, and Vernon nods. When I'm done with these official forms, I'll take you to the Hidden Village for an evaluation. I'm not qualified for that. We need an actual children's care worker. They're off duty at the moment, though. So, the inspection can only begin tomorrow, Finrey Gore says, and Vernon nods. Well, then I'll finish up this tonight and get a copy of your requirements, Vernon answers. Right. Yes. That will work, Finrey Gore says, and Vernon smirks at her tone. Long day? Very, Finrey Gore answers. I'm not sure what you're made of, but I'm exhausted, physically and mentally. Fair enough. If everyone was my brand of crazy, the galaxy would probably have been burnt down by now, Vernon jokes. How comforting, Finrey Gore notes. I suppose that wasn't the right thing to say in this situation. Vernon agrees. So, after these forms are done, will there be more? After you take the children in, yes, but you do know what caring for children, especially children that have gone through what these children has, is no small feat, right? It requires constant attention and care. Considering the actual entity taking them in does not sleep, does not blink, and will see in all places they're going to be in simultaneously, it's hard to argue against the idea that it will be keeping an eye on them, or that it's not a safe place seeing as how armies have tried and failed against it, Finri Gore says. That said, it is my solemn duty to keep those children well away from you and your forest if it's deemed unsafe. Do you understand me? I do. I know I'm outmatched, but I will still do everything in my power to prevent such a thing. The Barless and Harkle families are nothing but enormous pains in my side, but I will not stand by and let their children be victimized. Then we agree, Vernon says, and she nods. Good. Besides, if this turns out well, or even moderately okay, it should stop the stupid feud dead in its tracks, or at least make sure that the current generation of feuders is the last one, while keeping our hands clean. We've got a chance with the kiddies, even if it's a slim one, to stop the madness. But we need to teach them patience and to let go of the grudge before it digs its roots in. It may be too late for some of them already. We keep the kids separate as a matter of protocol to stop them from fighting. They already know to hate each other. But they're told to be good to family, right? Of course, it's how the whole... You think pushing in the fact that the family lines blurred together might do something? I think it might do a lot, especially if the families are blurred enough that the mixed Barless and Harkle outnumber the pure ones, Vernon says. But first we need a genetics test. Can one be authorized on the two sides without much fuss? Better, I can get those results with none whatsoever. We just updated their profiles and included a full scan in them. This will tell us medical issues, genetics, and all sorts of things required to properly hold a prisoner, Finri Gore says as she stands. If I get that started on getting the results of who's related to who to you, will you keep signing the paperwork? The only things possibly getting me to stop will be a short bathroom break or my daughters at home needing me. But they're sleeping deep and well at the moment. Vernon promises her, and he's shortly left alone in the small office. My love, I'm glad to see you haven't drowned in the paperwork. Miro Noir greets Vernon as he rises from his seat and then all but glides over the floor to kiss her. I missed you every moment you were gone. He purrs at her, and she softly giggles. Oh, you overly sweet. She kisses him this time, and they spend a few moments just luxuriating in each other's presence. I have news from the Empress. How have things gone here? The paperwork is nearly finished, and we'll soon have some useful information to hopefully kill this old grudge. At least if the bonds of family love are stronger than the bonds of family hate. Well, I have good news on that front, Miro Noir states as she pulls out a data chip. This here contains a copy of a freshly drafted document, signed by the Empress's own hand. The Dark Forest has been officially recognized as not only a citizen of Serbo, but the legal lord of its domain and adoptive caretaker and teacher of all sorcerers, meaning that its children are Serbo citizens as well. Ah, so I have an even 10 different ways I'm tied to Serbo. 10? I thought it was just that you were married to me. And father of 8 adorable little citizens of this world, bringing it up to 9. The forest makes 10, Vernon states. Ah, fair enough. You confused me for a moment, Miro Noir notes. And the idea of him having other wives never crossed your mind? Finri Gore asks in a bland tone as she announces her presence. No, Miro Noir says and nuzzles up to Vernon, who nuzzles right back. Are you trying to drown me in sap? Well, whatever. My shift technically ended 10 minutes ago. Here's the scan results. Best of luck, it looks like about a third of the Barlas and Harkul clans are related to the other side, Finri Gore says, handing over a data slate. Not as much as I hoped, but more than I feared. Now, how are the rest of the families related to the Crosses? Vernon asks out loud as he takes it. You have a plan? I'm going to strike at hatred with love. See how that works. Vernon offers and she giggles at him. Man! Finrey Gore huffs in disgust before leaving. For the love of the goddess, do not burn down this station with your crazy plan. But I won't know for 2 days I'm officially on break.